Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by CacheFly. CacheFly.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Saturday, September 20th, 2014. This is episode 1119. Enjoy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, smartphones, home theater, digital photography, anything with a chip in it. 8888 Ask Leo is the number. 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. and Canada. Outside the U.S. and Canada, you could just use Skype to call. I'm a little tired today. You might think about why. Well, because I was in line at 3 a.m. yesterday morning to get an iPhone. Holy cow. What an ordeal. What an ordeal. And yet, you know, you meet people in line who are amazing. And there is a certain camaraderie come 8 a.m. when you've been waiting 6 hours together in line. And the Apple, it's so funny. The Apple people, if you're not, by the way, if you're not interested in the iPhone or the iPhone just makes you plumb angry, you could tune out for a few minutes, and we'll talk about other stuff. But I have to mention this, and not because the iPhone is so important. You know, it's just a phone. I understand, just another phone, just another computer in your pocket. But because culturally, I think it's just amazing, and it's an amazing bit of marketing, brilliant marketing. So come 8 a.m., we've been waiting outside. I went to a mall store, so that meant sitting. I was 40th in line at 3 in the morning. Others had been there since noon, early evening, that kind of thing. I was sitting in line at 3 in the morning on my little lawn chair on the cement, the cold, hard cement outside the mall entrance with about 100 of my close friends. Apple folks showed up about 6 a.m. to cheer you on, to pretend to engage you. What are you going to get? And then, of course, when you ask them the most important question, well, do you have what I want? They said, they didn't tell us. Yeah, they didn't tell you. But they're not going to tell you because they don't want anybody to leave, I guess. And then at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., when the mall opens, they ferried us in groups of 25. Apple was nice. Now, for every 25 people, I'm guessing you're talking around $20,000 to $30,000 in revenue. So understand that they're nice, but they're not exactly, you know. They gave us coffee. We had little bagels. The little bagel person was there with the bagels and the coffee. So that's nice. That's really nice. You want to treat. These are your hardest core customers. These people who wait in these silly lines. Yeah.
I'd think they'd serve you Apple Jacks.
I would have liked Apple Jacks.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. A little dried apples. Apple tea. Yeah, they could have done that, but no, it was just coffee and bagels. And then at 8 o'clock when the store opens, but right before that, all the Apple employees, and there were, you know, this is a mall store. It's a full-size store, but not one of the biggest stores by any means I've seen. Not like the San Francisco or New York stores or anything like that. But I think there were probably 80 employees, and they come running out like a football team, and they're cheering each other on, and they line up, and then they do a countdown, 10, 9, as they're counting down to 8 a.m. when the store opens, 8, and the audience is going 7, 6, 5, 4, and they open 3, 2, 1, they open the doors, the audience goes, well, the 100 people in line, and the employees go, and they let the first one in, and people start buying. Now, Apple had an electronic reservation system which broke. Apple has had nothing but technical failures associated with this launch. Their stream, where they announced it last week ago, Tuesday, had Chinese translation behind it for 20 minutes. The ordering process. The reason I was in line is because the ordering process last Friday morning didn't work. You couldn't get into the Apple Store. Now, all of this probably due to huge interest and demand. It's not really their fault. Their reservation system immediately overwhelmed. They were going to give people electronic reservations. It's working today, by the way, at the Apple stores. And they all have more stock. My John Salino, our studio manager, went back to get more. He went back to get his. He was there at 8 in the evening yesterday. And they did the reservation system. He can go back. Now he's got a ticket because he was in line. He can go back anytime today and pick it up at his leisure. But yesterday morning, that they gave you a piece of paper with a number on it. I was number 41 in line. And finally you get to the front of the line. You can get two, only two. That makes sense. They don't want the first person in line buying 300, and then that's it. So, good night, everybody. So they two, but very limited supply. They didn't have the phone I was looking for. A lot of people, I think, settled. But we were able to get, and the reason I was in line, I wanted to have one for today. So the iPhone 6 is here. This is the iPhone 6. There's two of them. I call the Big 6 and the Little 6. The Big 6 is big. It is as big as those big old Android phones everybody laughed at 2 years ago. It's a 5.5-inch screen. They come in. Both of them come in three colors: the slate gray, the gold, and the silver. Slate gray has a black front. The other two have white fronts. They also come in three sizes: 16 gigabytes, which I can't imagine anybody wants, given that the apps immediately will fill that up. 64 gigabytes, and they, yes, have 128 gigabytes of storage. I think nowadays that's less important since most of your content is streaming. They all have the fingerprint reader and all sorts of new features, health kit and so forth. They're quite beautiful phones, I think. They're very thin, which is nice. Let me get to my home screen on here. I'm showing them to you, even though I know you can't see them. they're really, the fingerprint reader is pretty phenomenal. I have to say it works every time, and it's now tied to more stuff. So up to now you could only buy stuff in the iTunes store and unlock your phone with a fingerprint reader. Now you can do things like my bank, for instance, will allow me to log into the banking app with a fingerprint reader. That's great. That's a great feeling of security to do that. Screens are gorgeous, not unique. In fact, we think that the big iPhone's screen is identical to a number of Android phone screens at 5.5 inches. The little one's 4.7 inches, still bigger, a lot bigger than the iPhone 5S, the last year's model. But I think feels really elegant and nice in the hand. Let me just get this out of the way, because I think a lot of people are for some reason decided that they want to choose teams. They want to choose sides in this. I'm Team Android. I'm Team Windows Phone. I'm Team Apple. I hate you. It's not really a team sport. These are just gadgets. Important gadgets. In fact, I think for most of us now, the primary computer we use day in, day out for surfing, for email, for text messaging, for calling, for everything we do. These are gorgeous. I mean, the cameras are superb. Apple still does probably the best camera in the market, even though it's only 8 megapixels. I think it's a tie. I'm gonna just say it is now a tie. Apple was a little behind. In fact, I stopped using iPhones because the screens were so much smaller than the general screens, and I like a bigger screen. That's just personal. I also couldn't use the Apple keyboard, and I never understood why they just made sure it was always caps. I could never tell if it was lowercase or uppercase because the screen, the keys caps didn't change. I know it's a minor thing, but it was annoying. I would make many more typos on the Apple phone, so I just stopped using them. A couple of years ago, moved to Android. Always have had Apple phones because I got to keep up on them. At this point, Apple, by making the bigger screens and third-party keyboards, I think the game is all tied up, and I think it will be for the foreseeable future. These companies influence each other. Something really great that comes from one company will be copied by another company. I think there are amazing Android phones out there. I'm looking forward next week to getting the Moto, actually this week to get the Moto X, the HTC One. I'm not a big fan of Samsung, but many of you are, and certainly the hardware is incredible. And the Nokia Lumia phone's fantastic, running the Windows Phone OS. I think we can say now it's too close to call. And now, this is good news. It's your choice. It's what you like best. So don't call me saying what's the best phone anymore. It's what fits you and suits your temperament. We'll talk more in a bit. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. One of the things that surprised me, I was pretty sure, because this is the same size as the OnePlus One I've been using. I was pretty sure that I was going to want the big one. And I got the little one. It's so elegant. I think the TriCaster is about to crash. You know how it gets a little flaky? It's going black. It's slow. Just be prepared.
Yeah, it should. I mean,
it's going to crash.
We need to have you stand up for a minute, Leo.
Okay, I'm right in the middle of something, but I will in a little bit. I feel like the little one is actually, for 99% of iPhone users, the right one. I have to change my tune on that. And there was certainly a lot of question about it. This one is awfully big. And this, the 4.7, the iPhone 6, is so elegant in the hand, so gorgeous, so thin. I feel like this is the natural form factor for an iPhone. The really difference between the two, besides the screen size, is the battery life, and I haven't had it long enough to really have a winner in that regard. But this is a bigger battery. Of course, it's a bigger screen. And the optical image stabilization. And the sample shots I've taken and seen from others, it should, in theory, give you better low light performance. These cameras are so good now that I think that that's a push. So I think you can choose it really solely on size. And this isn't an iPad mini size, but I think for a lot of people, I got my mom the 6 Plus because for a lot of people, the big screen, for us older folks, is a really nice thing to have. And certainly, I was watching some video on this. I mean, certainly, if you like video, having a big screen is really great. You know, this is really great for watching video on. So I'm impressed by both. Both are good. I think Android has some advantages in some respects, absolutely, and that's why I think it's safe to say we've got us a tie now. This is a horse race, and you should pick the phone that suits your means, your style. You know, these are very expensive phones. The top of the line 6 Plus is $949. It's outrageous. So means is definitely an issue. The OnePlus One is $350, and in many respects, pretty much all respects, is the same phone. No sapphire glass. It's only on the lens. Now, some people are saying, "Oh, the camera protrudes." I don't think that's going to bother you. Certainly hasn't bothered me. But yeah, so if you say, as some have in the chat room, "Oh, viewing photos is better on this," yeah, if you want, it depends what you do. It really depends what you do. But I have to say, for carrying this around, the other thing I learned, which I'm very pleased, this is a Verizon. It fits the T-Mobile SIM. It's unlocked in the SIM card, so that means I could take this one to Europe and use T-Mobile because they have free international text calling and data, and so that's great. So Verizon at home, so this is, as it has been for some years now, the choice for international travel is the Verizon iPhone. And yeah, so if you have unlimited data with one company, or there's a variety of reasons you might want to stick. I do have a case, and I probably will carry a case because especially the big one, feels like it's going to fall any minute now. But it's really sad to put a case on this. It's so thin and beautiful. I hate to do that. I actually really like the little one. All right, enough iPhone chatter. Yeah, the first guy who bought an iPhone in Australia dropped it immediately. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo is the number. A little U2 to celebrate the U2 spam Apple put on people's phones and iPads over the last week. 8888 Ask Leo. 888-827-5536. That's the number. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. Heather Humman is here, the phone ranger. Happy with her iPhone 5S, no doubt.
Oh yes.
I'll bring you the replacement for that, and you can play with it. Just see how you feel about it.
Okay.
You know, the 5, what they did with the 5 with the square edges was, I guess that was a style decision then, but they've gone back to the rounded, and I like the rounded. I feel
it feels fairly rounded.
Oh, that's got, well, it's all right.
Is yours rounder?
Yeah, mine's right.
Is it like a Frisbee? That would be neat.
No,
I don't like
it's
this
not
phone.
a
You just throw
Frisbee.
it.
Hey, you know, the first kid, I felt so bad. You've probably seen the video by now on YouTube. Australia, of course, gets these first because of the time zones. And the reporters were there as the first kid, the first purchaser emerged. I think he was a teenager from an Australian Apple store. And he's shaking. He's opening his thing on there. All the reporters are around interviewing him. And it immediately drops to the ground and cracks.
Shut
I know. Now, if I'm Apple, I run out the door. You know, when you drop an ice cream cone at Baskin and Robbins, if you walk out the door and the ice cream cone goes, they usually will give you a new cone.
Right.
It's not their fault, but it's just good customer service. I think that if I were Apple, I'd have sent somebody out the door really fast. Say, oh, while the cameras are still rolling. Oh my goodness, you cracked it. Give it to me. I'll give you a new one. Missed the boat on that. I think Apple doesn't need to do anything like that anymore. Unbelievable success in marketing. Just unbelievable. If nothing else, this is a case study in brilliant marketing. Got me in line for 6 hours. I don't wait in line for anything. Got me in line for 6 hours. I don't wait in line for a movie. I didn't get Hunger Games. I didn't wait in line for that, but I waited in line for this phone. And I don't even need a phone. All right, I did it for you so I could talk about it. We'll talk more about it, but not, that's, not forever. We'll end here. Let's go to some callers. And I bet you most people on the phone do not care or worry about an iPhone 6. It's not in their... Give me an example, Heather. Who should I talk to here?
Well, I actually lined up...
Happen to be an iPhone 6 call?
Kind of not.
Good.
Are you okay to go the other way?
I can go either way.
Lou in Rancho Cuca is going from Apple to Android. What do you think?
A lot of people are. I've done that. And by the way, I want to make it clear. I have not switched back to iPhone yet. I have to decide before I go. I'm going to London at the end of the month. I have to decide which phone I'm going to take to London.
Maybe if they give you another U2 record, it'll sort of tip the scale. Sorry.
I like you too, but not anymore. Hi, Lou. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, good morning, Leo. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Good, sir. Thank you. I had a quick question. I'm planning on moving over to Android. I just wanted to kind of get a feel of how to adapt to it, apps and everything. I know one phone or App Store doesn't have all the apps that Google Play does, and vice versa. And so how can I adapt to the change with sacrificing apps and all that? And,
first of all, there are very few apps you'll sacrifice. Android now is as big in the United States as iPhone, and will soon be bigger. It's already bigger around the rest of the world by a large shot. So app developers, while they for historic reasons, they often do develop for iPhones first. There's no economic reason to do that. I think it's bogus to say, I'll make more money on the iPhone. I think really that's changed. So most of the apps you use will be available, and they'll look identical. In fact, you won't really feel at sea at all on an Android phone. The apps work the same. There are a few. Instagram has a new slow motion camera app called Hyperlapse that they say, well, we can't do it on Android until the next generation of Android L, because the technology doesn't work. That's very rare, though. That's very rare. So you're gonna, in fact, you can see right now you're gonna almost exclusively. In fact, at first I recommend exclusively buying from Google's Play Store. There's a checkbox in the settings on Android that allows you to jailbreak any Android phone and buy from any store you want. Do not uncheck that, or do not check that until you become fairly confident. And the reason being, the Play Store is safe, but you don't know when you get apps from other places what you're getting.
I see.
You're going to feel fairly comfortable. Really, the issue, what happens, you can make an Android phone behave and act pretty much identically to an iPhone, but there's a lot more you can do. There's more keyboards. There's widgets, which you can put right on the screen. There's a world opens up of extra stuff, but don't feel like you have to immediately expand into that. I think the transition from iPhone to Android is not difficult, unless, and this is where it's really a personal thing, your emotional, intuitive bonding to the iPhone means I have to use an iPhone. And if that's the case, you should stay with iPhone. Obviously, it's not the case for you. I don't think you'll have any difficulty transitioning to Android.
And I think that's the thing for me is the transitioning part with the apps and getting used to. I know the internet servers are definitely different. So if I do go on Facebook on iPhone and then
it's identical experience. No, it's identical experience. In fact, the only way it might not be if you sign up for the Facebook beta, they're making changes on Android. They're trying out different stuff on Android. They're not doing that on Apple because you have to get Apple's approval to release different versions, and Apple is, that's a pain in the butt. So Facebook's actually pushing out beta versions faster on Android.
Gotcha.
You will be I'm telling you, using these apps, you're going to, oh, that's Facebook. Oh, that's Instagram. Oh, that's Twitter. It's not. They don't look different.
Okay.
The big difference is the variety of choices you have. You can make an Android phone be a grid of icons, work exactly like an iPhone. There are iPhone templates. You can make it. But all of a sudden in Android, you can have different launchers. You're not stuck with the launcher the manufacturer gives you. You can have different keyboards. Apple now has a few extra keyboards. There's many more than that. And Apple is funny. Apple is still very squeamish about letting third-party keyboards on the iPhone. I immediately installed SwiftKey on the new iPhone because I love SwiftKey on Android. It's a really far better keyboard. But when you enter passwords in many cases on the iPhone, it switches back to the iPhone, the terrible iPhone keyboard, which I hate primarily because it makes me mistype passwords frequently. And it's kind of annoying. It's like, are you going to allow third-party keyboards or not? The reason Apple's squeamish about it is, in theory, it's very theoretical, a third-party keyboard could capture what you're typing and send it back to the company. And so Apple warns you in paragraph-long warning about that when you first install it. And the thing is, you're going to either trust it or not. And I think for them to say, well, you may trust it, but we're still not going to trust it when you enter passwords is very annoying. So all of a sudden your keyboard shifts back to the bad Apple keyboard. Apple's a little bit of a nanny. And this is the biggest cultural difference you'll experience moving to Android. Nobody's looking over your shoulder anymore. You can really screw yourself up if you want. You won't, but you could. You get to do what you want. Androids are very much like, do whatever you want. You're probably already using the Google services, too. If you're using Google Mail and Google Plus and Google Now, all of that stuff works better on Android than it does on Apple. Or not all of it, much of it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More calls right after this. I find it so typical of Apple that I can use a third-party keyboard unless I'm entering a password. Then, no, we're going to take it from here. The reason I don't like the Apple keyboard primarily is because, and I mentioned this, and I probably should stop mentioning it, the keycaps are always uppercase, just like a regular typewriter, right? And on every other keyboard made, including all the third-party keyboards for iPhone, when you're in lowercase, it's lowercase letters. When you press the shift key, it goes to uppercase letters. So you know, just looking at what you're typing, you know exactly what you're going to get. And in passwords, I use a real mix of upper and lowercase. I have to be very careful entering passwords on the Apple keyboard because I can't always be sure what I'm getting. I have to look at each thing. 6 Plus is great. Coming from a giant Android phone, it's fine for me. There's a certain elegance to the 6 that I'm thinking. I think especially people coming from an iPhone 5S. So this is the original iPhone. Look at that. How fat. Tiny, 3.5-inch screen. So already the 4.7 is a big jump. You're an iPhone guy, right, Scott? No. Yeah?
I am a totally iPhone guy.
Yeah. So what do you think? Are you going to go get a new one?
Yeah, I think I am because I have a 4S. So it's a couple generations old.
And you're due for an upgrade probably, yeah?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. I'm out of my 2-year contract. Good. I've just been trying to decide whether or not to get the small one or the big one.
I think you're not alone. You should get the small one.
I kind of like the small one.
If you're coming from a 4S, this will scare the heck out of you. It's like, it just will feel so odd to you. I think you'll really... This is beautiful. This is elegant. In fact, people tell me they feel like the 6 is big. And it will certainly, it will be big for you because you're going from
For me, it'll be bigger, yeah.
Yeah, 4S is 3.5 inches. So.
And I don't watch videos on my phone. I really don't.
No.
I watch them on my home theater. You know.
Hey, Scott Wilkinson's here. Bomp, dear bomp.
That's become my theme song. I love it. I totally love it.
It's a good song.
It's a great song.
Yeah. Scott is
totally into funk.
Our home theater guru. He is at the AVS Forum. Also does a regular podcast with my podcast network, Twit, called The Home Theater Geek. And joins us every week to talk about TVs, surround sound. What's up this week?
Oh, tons of stuff. You know, I'm glad to be back home from CEDIA. That was quite exhausting, particularly in the Mile High City, which is now a mile high for more than one reason. But it is certainly 5,000 feet high, and that thin air did kind of make me pause as I was running from booth to booth. Nonetheless, it was quite exciting. We talked about it last week, and I wanted to ask you, actually, have you had a chance to go listen to my high-res audio test files?
You know,
yet?
I did informally. I know that that's something you wanted me to do because I can listen to high-res. I've been kind of fond of high-res of late.
Yep.
I have these nice, new, very expensive headphones, and I love the sound of high-res audio. I think primarily because it's uncompressed. So, and that's the test you're doing, is not compression versus non-compression. Both
Correct.
are uncompressed. It's whether a high bitrate file, whether I can tell the difference, a blind comparison between a high bitrate file and a low bitrate. And, you know, I listened to them real briefly once, and they sounded pretty much the same, so I haven't gotten around to doing it again. You know, John Slanina, who, like me, is an old man, and anybody of over 40, our hearing has deteriorated. And
absolutely,
we're both in our 50s. And he said he could not. He listened very carefully, could not tell the difference.
Well, and
so
he's
I have
not
to
alone.
listen again. Yeah. So what were the results?
He's not alone, and you're not alone. There were many, many people who really couldn't tell the difference. But it has to do in part with the type of system you're listening on. I basically asked people to send me their results. Just to make sure everybody understands the test, I put up 3 tracks that were verified to have high-resolution information in them, stuff that cannot be captured and stored and reproduced on CD. Then I made a copy. Actually, Mark Waldrop of AIX Records, who provided these tracks, made a copy and down-resed them to CD quality, 16 bits, 44.1 kilohertz sampling rate. And then we re-upsampled that to 2496, which was what the original file was, so that they would look the same if you looked at them in the operating system of the computer. And so he said, and I labeled one A and one B, and I randomly chose which one was A and which one was B. And so everybody then listened to them and sent me their results, saying, well, I think that on this track, it's the true high-res version is A. And in this track, the true high-res version is B. And I also asked them to send me their systems. You know, what were their speakers? What were their amplifier? What were their source device that they were playing them on? Because if you have a system that can't reproduce the extra information in the high-res audio file, it's going to sound completely identical to the CD. And most people don't have high-res capable systems. That's one of the things we were looking at in this experiment. And so we got about 56 responses altogether, about evenly divided. There were a few more in the non-high-res system category than in the high-res system category. And something very interesting happened. Among those who did not have a high-res capable audio system, generally just a inexpensive stereo system or home theater system, the average rate of correct identifications was right at almost exactly 50%.
That's what you'd expect. Random. They couldn't tell the difference, in other words.
They were just guessing, essentially. Yes. But among those who have high-res audio systems, and they sent me these systems, and I did a lot of research making sure that they were capable, the average rate of correct responses was 80%.
Ah, that's significant statistically, is not?
Well, yes and no. I have to say this is not a scientific test. We did not control the environment.
But they hadn't. I mean, do you think people cheated? Is there a way you could look at it and
There is a way you can cheat, and that is to take these files, put them in a program like I think Audacity.
Oh, you could look at the waveform.
You could look at the spectrum.
I would never do such a thing.
Of course you wouldn't. You know, and that's one of the reasons this is not a scientific experiment, because people could cheat. You could look at the spectrum and you could see, is there information out beyond 20 kilohertz audio frequency? And, you know, I'm going to say that by and large, I don't think people did. I mean, maybe some people did, and I have no way of knowing. So, again, that's why this is not a statistically...
I have to say 80% sounds significant.
Yeah.
Even with a few cheaters thrown in, it means people can tell the difference. And this is kind of a shocking result, because so many people said, oh, you know, CD quality is more than enough. No one can really tell the difference. It's some few golden-eared people who think they can tell the difference. But I think the best way to do it is what you did, which is a blind A/B test. Here are 2 tracks, one at CD quality, one at a higher quality. Can you hear the difference and identify it? And the fact that 80% using, obviously, if you're not using high res, in fact, we know it is statistically significant, because people who couldn't play back, you know, wouldn't be able to tell, didn't. If they were cheating, they could. None of them cheated.
Seems like it. That seems like it.
And the people who had the gear, and we're more and more seeing that. You know, Samsung's Galaxy Note, for instance, has high-res playback capability.
Right. The HTC One, M8, I guess is what it's called.
High-res.
Also, high-res capability.
And, of course, this all comes up because Neil Young, who has a pretty big bully pulpit in the rock and roll business, announced he was dissatisfied with the quality of playback on iPods. And other MP3 devices, and he's releasing a new device, which I kickstarted. I gave him some money. I should get it next month. Called the Pono, that has very high quality, you know, hardware. So it has the ability to play back high res, super high res files.
That's right. That's right. Now his question that he was, I think, addressing, as you said, was he wasn't happy with MP3s, which are compressed files. Those are files in which up to 90% of the audio information has been discarded. It's gone. And he said, well, nuts to that, I'm going to make high res. Okay, that's another experiment that I may very well conduct, which is, can you hear the difference between MP3 and uncompressed?
That depends I bet everybody can do. If you're actually looking for it.
Yeah.
I think that's the single biggest thing, is just, and you can do this on any device, including an iPod, playback uncompressed audio. Use Apple lossless. On other devices, you may use something called FLAC, F-L-A-C. And I think that by itself makes a huge difference.
It does. And it also depends on how much the file was compressed, because there are different levels of compression. And if you compress it down to where the bit rate is less than 128 kilobits per second, then yeah, you're going to start hearing pretty obvious differences.
It's going to sound like Scott does right now. Skype was giving us a little example, a little demonstration.
A little demonstration of high compression rates. Okay.
I think this is a very interesting topic, and I think we talk about it a lot. I'm very interested in it all of a sudden. I have high-res capability on my stereo, I found out. If I put a USB, put these high-res files on a USB key and plug it into the stereo.
Exactly.
But you have to do, and as you pointed out, you have to do a few things like turn off Odyssey and stuff like that. Anyway, Scott, it's a great topic. I think people should get music as listen to it as cleanly, as beautifully as possible, because music lifts us all up, and when it's well done, it really sounds great. AVSforum.com, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So CD is, as we've said many times, but might as well, it bears repeating, 44.1 at 16 bits. High res bits. In most. Now, what were yours? Because even going to 24 bits at 44.1 makes a big difference, I would guess.
Well, no, I disagree.
You think it's the sample rate that makes a difference?
It's the sample rate, I think. A lot of people say, as you do, that it's the bit depth that makes more difference. But the bit depth governs the dynamic range. And dynamic range is a little tricky. That is the difference between the softest and the loudest parts of the music. Because CD can already, with 16 bits, can encode theoretically 96 dB of dynamic range. When you add in some of the processing that they have to do to master a CD, it ends up being more like 93. But that is still way more than most people capture in their recordings to begin with. I mean, even Mark Waldrop at AIX Records You know, he does capture more than 93 dB, but it's rare. It's actually rare. And then when you consider that most popular music is dynamically compressed to within a few dB, so that you can hear all of it while you're driving in your car or running down the street, jogging or whatever, dynamic range doesn't make that much of a difference. And then there's the argument of, well, if you increase the sample rate, which is also what we did, our files, our native high-res files are 24 bits, 96 kilohertz sampling rate, which allows audio frequencies up to 48 kilohertz, which is well beyond what any human can hear, much less us old guys. Then you wonder, well, what difference does that make? Because we can't hear those frequencies anyway. Well, I conjecture that those high frequencies are interacting with each other and creating effectively psychoacoustic phenomena down in the audible range, and we can in fact hear that. Now, one of the things that we didn't control for, and I would like very much to figure out a way to do it, is that we took this 2496 file and downsampled it, right? We sample rate converted it to 16 bits 44.1 and then re-up converted it back to 2496 in order to disguise it, to make sure that no one could see which was which just by a casual glance. But that the dual sample rate converted file did not have that extra information in it because it had been down converted. Now, the question comes up, and it's a valid question. Was the difference that people were hearing related to artifacts that might have been created by the sample rate conversion? Now, Mark Waldrop and I both agree that modern sample rate conversion, and he used a fully professional software package to do it, is quite transparent and very, you know, if there are any artifacts at all, they might very well be under the just noticeable difference, or J&D. But we're not 100% sure about that. We need to do more experiments in order to verify that. So that's another reason why we call this experiment non-scientific. I was just curious, and I wanted to get people involved in listening to high res to see if they could hear a difference. You got to be a little surprised by the result. I am perhaps slightly. I'm not at all surprised by the 50% result of those who don't have high res audio.
Of course, that's actually a great control.
Yes, exactly.
Because that's anybody who says they can hear the difference is lying.
Because there is no
difference. No, but the fact that it was 80% is amazing
80%.
To me. It really confirms what Neil Young's been saying.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Now, there's another issue.
We'll talk more in a bit.
Okay.
Thanks, Scott. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number if you have a question, a comment, a suggestion. Let's go to Paula in Temecula. Hi, Paula.
Hi.
Welcome. What can I do for you?
Thank you. Well, I'm looking for what is the best place to buy a gaming computer? I have a 15-year-old son who will soon have a birthday.
I bet your 15-year-old son would tell you this, but you don't want to. You want to surprise him.
Well, I want your advice because you're the expert.
Yeah. Well, also, one of the reasons it's important to kind of. Are you going to surprise him? It's nice to include him on the decision a little bit. Here's the problem with buying gifts for geeks.
Mm-hmm.
They know exactly what they want, and they know exactly what's good and bad. And you've probably had this experience already. You know, look, I gave you a Sony PlayStation. Mom, everyone knows the Xbox is right? So, right. It's a good idea to, even if it's a surprise, to kind of gauge the waters, gauge the temperature, kind of get an idea a little bit of if he has a strong opinion, you've got to have an Alienware or go home. Or,
Right, so I know a couple things he wants to do on it. He wants to be able to play Battlefield 4 on high settings.
Okay.
He wants to be able to stream Twitch, and he wants to be able to record for YouTube.
Excellent. I'm glad you're supporting him on this. A lot of parents say, no, this is not productive, but he's being very creative, isn't he?
Yes, and I want to encourage that.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't think he's going to play video games for a living, but this is age-appropriate stuff, and he's creating stuff. I see a lot of parents with the kids who play Minecraft 8 hours a day going, what is he doing? Well, but I bet maybe you played with Lego when you were that age, 8 hours a day. It's a new generation, and these are the generative, creative tools the new generation is using. And so I think it's very open-minded of you and supportive to say, good, well, this is something he gets into. Let's help him. You may walk away with sticker shock when you see how much a gaming computer costs, because look, all PCs can game, any Windows machine can game, but gaming is among them, especially something like Battlefield 4, is among the most demanding things you do with a computer, much more so than a spreadsheet or word processor or browser. I mean, we're really challenging, especially the graphics processing unit, or GPU. So whatever you get should have what we call a dedicated GPU. In other words, it's using an NVIDIA chip. Usually it's NVIDIA. Sometimes it's AMD chip that has a specific pays specific attention to the graphics. That's going to make a difference. Big difference. Now, that's another case where he may say, oh, Mom, everybody knows ATI is the best, or Mom, everybody knows NVIDIA is the best. Those are the competing brands. I think you're safe with NVIDIA.
Okay.
So NVIDIA. So you're going to look for something that has an NVIDIA graphics board in it. If you really wanted to be nice, I'd go to Alienware. They're owned by Dell. They're a little overpriced because they're a gaming computer and they know it and they style it that way. But this would be a heck of a birthday present for a kid. Now, don't get a laptop. He's not saying laptop, right?
No.
He wants a desktop.
Right.
Yeah. Gaming laptops are always a compromise. I think a laptop's a compromise, but gaming laptop particularly.
Okay.
I would go to Alienware and just look at what you can afford.
Okay.
He's not going to complain if you get him an Alienware. He's going to say, he's going to flip his lid. Because this is the creme de la creme in gaming systems. You can make a less expensive Dell that is similar, but it won't have the style. It won't have the cachet. It won't have the brand. Yeah. So I would say you're safe going to Alienware and then pricing it based on what your budget is.
Okay.
All right. But any of the Alienware desktops will be sweet looking and sweet performing. There are other companies that are less known, and again, see, I'm going with the teenager who he may be super sophisticated and go, well, Mom, I know that Doghouse Systems makes better for less, and Doghouse is very good. And so I don't know where he stands on that spectrum of know-it-all nerds.
Right.
But I think that no kid would be unhappy if you got him an Alienware.
Okay, I'll check into that. I've heard about something called iBuyPower.
Yeah. So this is I like iBuyPower. I think they advertise, don't they? I think advertising is really an amazing thing because it really brings... Alienware does not advertise. Yeah. iBuyPower is a good company, though. I don't have anything wrong with them. They are a gaming system. And they, if you look on the front page, you'll see they have NVIDIA GTX graphics processors, and that's what you want. You're probably going to want you're certainly going to want an Intel i5, maybe an i7 if you feel generous. You're going to want 8 gigs of memory, maybe 16 if you feel generous. Bigger display is better for gaming. But, you can overdo it. Yeah, iBuyPower is good. So Doghouse, iBuyPower, NVIDIA, Alienware. Is Falcon Northwest still in business? They were for many years a very good... I bet they are, but let me just look. A very good gaming system. So there are some excellent choices out there. If you're really smart, in the sense that really geeky, you can probably cobble together a system for less with the same pieces, but it won't have the super styling. It won't have the brand name on the front. You know what I'm saying? You're paying a little bit. You're paying a little bit for the cachet.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much.
Hey, you're very welcome. I think your son is a very lucky boy, and I think it's good to encourage him to do these YouTube and videos and the Twitch videos because it's creative. Even if he's not a gamer for life, what he's doing is he's learning how to tell story. He's learning how to create. And kids nowadays, this is what they look at. This is what they watch. If you have a teenager, they don't watch TV anymore. They watch YouTube. They watch Twitch. They watch videos about gaming. They watch music videos. This is their. It's a very different world than the one we grew up in. And so if you're a parent and you kind of want to, it's hard, I know, because we don't understand it very well. But I think it's great to encourage that creativity. I really do. Hey, thanks for the call. I appreciate it. Nice job, Mom. Stan, Carlsbad, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Stan.
Hey, how you doing, Leo?
I am well. How are you, sir?
Not too bad, sir. Well, here's my issue I have. I have a laptop, and almost about a week or so, I've been having issues to where if I'm online, and all of a sudden she'll freeze up, and then all of a sudden another window will pop up, a few of them. One will say unresponsive, kill pages. You know, they got that picture of that.
Yep. The little sick computer.
Then I'll get a, I have to hit reload a few times.
So there's a couple of possibilities. One is the browser could be just, tired. Which browser do you use? Chrome, right?
Let's see. Chrome.
Yeah. Yeah, Chrome gives you the little sick computer. So a couple of things you can do. Chrome will let you kind of reset, and this will kill all your cookies. You'll have to re-enter passwords and things as you go around the net. But I think it's not a bad idea with any browser to clear the browsing data when you're getting weird results, because stuff may be stored in the cache.
Yeah, she just happened recently. Before she was working fine.
Yeah, Chrome's great. And then Chrome will automatically update you. So if you go to the Chrome menu, you'll see clear browsing data. So
clear browsing data.
Yeah, that just clears all the stuff it's stored from previous trips around the net. Something there might be causing the crash. Make sure your Chrome is up to date. Do About Chrome and look. It'll update itself. This is fixable. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Remove toolbars, yep. Well, that's what we've been, yeah, so CDs aren't compressed, but they're sampled because you can't duplicate a sine wave, an analog wave. And I think what you're thinking of is MP3s, which are compressed. They take some of it out, but it's psychoacoustics that your ear, when you're hearing one frequency, can't hear some resonating other frequencies. So they can just eliminate
nearby,
those.
yeah.
They're nearby. They just eliminate those. And it does a very good, it's not that it doesn't do a great job. MP3 does a great job.
It's amazing, actually, that it works at all.
Scott's talking to. It's just doesn't work as well as uncompressed. And then and now the question we're asking is, well, sampling is, by its nature, is going to remove some data as well, up to the Nyquist point. So is there a difference there? By the way, did your test, Scott, confirm the Nyquist, or did it disprove it? Because the sample rates you were using were above the Nyquist, theoretical Nyquist point, right?
Well, the Nyquist frequency is defined by the sampling rate.
Right.
So if your sampling rate is 44.1 kilohertz, the Nyquist frequency is 22.05.
And we all know that very few, if any, human ears hear anything at 22 kilohertz.
Correct.
So
exactly
you're,
right.
in theory, and I'm sure this is why they chose the CD sample rate, oversampling already.
Slightly.
But you oversampled even more, and people could tell the difference.
The high-res audio's oversamples even more. That's correct. And another difference is this. If you're sampling at 44.1 kilohertz for a Nyquist frequency of 22, that means you have to block, whenever you have frequencies coming into the sampler, essentially, to the digital recorder, and it's getting converted from analog to digital, you have to allow everything up to 20 kilohertz or even 22 to pass into the analog to digital converter perfectly at full volume and everything else. And everything above 22, if you have a signal coming in that has frequency components above 22 kilohertz, you have to prevent them from getting in altogether. Because if you don't, if they get into the analog to digital converter, they create nasty artifacts called aliasing. And what that means is, with a CD, you need a very steep filter. It needs to allow everything in up to 20 kilohertz and nothing in above 22 kilohertz. So that's an extremely steep filter. If you record at 96 kilohertz sampling rate, however, you can have a much more gentle, gradual filter that finally ends at 48 kilohertz, half of 96. Which and a gentle filter is much easier to implement, causes many fewer problems of its own. Very steep filters can have problems in phase, particularly. Now, modern filter design has gotten very good, and so recording at 44.1 kilohertz and allowing everything up to 20 kilohertz audio in and preventing anything above 22 out to come in, it has gotten very, very good. But that's one of the reasons why high-resolution audio is so appealing, is that the filters don't have to be so aggressive. Then there's the issue of when you go to a high-res audio site and download something like HD tracks or something like that, and you download something at, say, 2496, and they say, oh, you're getting a file that's 24 bits, 96 kilohertz, it's high-res. Well, is it really? Or did they up-res it from CD, which has been proven to be the case in some particular cases, in which case you're not getting, you're getting essentially the down-resed version of the test files that I gave, that I provided, posted on the site for people to download. You're getting nothing above 20 kilohertz, nothing beyond 93 dB at best, dynamic range. So there is a bit of a question there. It's what Mark Waldrop calls provenance. How was the music recorded? How was it digitized? How was it, and how did it end up being distributed? There are a lot of people who are making high-res versions from master analog tapes of 30, 40 years ago. Do those tapes have that extra information on it that would be captured by 2496? In many cases, the answer is no. So it's kind of it's a very interesting subject, but it is full of pitfalls and considerations that one must be aware of. And I'm hoping that Neil Young is aware of this. And when he starts distributing music, high-res music, it will, in fact, be true high-res music and not upsampled CDs, for example. Bright Silence in the chat room is asking, isn't it possible that the differences heard in your test were due to the filter used when down converting to 1644.1? Yes, this is a possibility, that the conversion itself introduced artifacts. Now, somebody earlier in the chat room, I forget who it was, linked to a site that publishes comparisons of different sample rate converters, which I hadn't heard of before, and that's super cool. So I've got to go. I'm going to go check that out with the sample rate converter that we used. I'm not sure what to compare it with, because that site that I went to was, compare this one to that one, and we didn't. I don't know which other one to compare it to. I may just try several and see what it does, but it's pretty cool. That's a very cool idea. So yeah, this whole issue of high resolution audio, it's so big with Neil Young and everything else. I just wanted to check it out and see, what I might find and what it might tell us about how to do a more scientific experiment. I know that Mark Waldrop is thinking about hosting an experiment in his studio where anybody who wants to participate, it would have to be only people in LA or people who came to LA, would go to his studio. So the environment would be the same. The sound system would be the same. Everything would be the same. And that would be a much more scientific test. Also getting as many people in there as possible. Also having them listen to a larger sample than the 3 tracks that we provided. All of those things could be done and would provide more scientifically valid results. Still in all, I think our results are very, very interesting.
It's encouraging to me. It's encouraging.
Yeah, exactly. I also, believe it or not, I was not convinced that people would be as successful as they were with headphones. Me.
Well, headphones, I don't know why. I feel like I hear more with headphones.
And it also depends on, how high, what the frequency response of the headphones is.
And they may be higher. Oh, God, these planar magnetic headphones.
Oh, man. Which ones did you get?
The Hi-Fi, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, fantastic.
The 560s. Oh, my God.
Beautiful.
Even anything you're listening to sounds better. But on the high-def stuff, the definition is phenomenal.
Listen to those test files on those.
Yeah, and that's what I really like is just the spatialness of it, the openness of it, and the definition and placement of instruments is so good that it's a different experience. All right, Scott, thank you.
My pleasure. See you.
Well, hey, how you doing today? Leo Laporte here. Hey. Not Fat Albert, the tech guy, yes. I can understand the confusion. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number, 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside the U.S., you can always call with Skype. We'd love to hear from you. We have a website, highly recommended, even if I do say so myself. It's the Tech Guy Labs at techguylabs.com. And the reason I tell you about it is because if you hear something on the show, you do not have to write it down. You don't even have to write down the phone number. If you want a link to the chat room that's going on all the time behind the scenes, it's all at techguylabs.com. And each show is there, show by show, hour by hour, even question by question. You can drill down to an individual question. Audio and video from the show is put up there after the show. So you can jump to that part of the video and watch the question, watch my answer, read the transcription of my answer, but also comment. And I love it if you do. If you want to add something, you don't have to just shout fruitlessly at the radio, why you, I oughta. You can actually go in there and comment and vote up or down other people's comments so we can really build a valuable resource of questions and answers. I think it'll be very useful. And my pledge to you, always free, no subscription. I don't ask for your email. We don't need anything like that. It's a wide open website and always will be because I consider it a community resource. So keep that in mind for future. techguylabs.com. Now, we ran out of time. I was talking to Stan in Carlsbad about his overheating laptop. Now, here's what was happening. He was surfing in Chrome, and every once in a while it would freeze. He'd get that snap page that Chrome pops up with a sick computer. I couldn't display this page. Now, it's normal to get that once in a while. Some pages, depends where you go. If it happens on the same page over and over, it might be the page. You have to understand that, oddly enough, websites have become some of the most challenging things we do on the computer. They're loaded with graphics. If they have Flash, there's a program running and doing more stuff. It's very memory intensive and CPU intensive. Scrolling through an image heavy web page is very demanding. In fact, I use that as an informal benchmark for computers. I will go to a page like TheVerge.com, which is a technology website that's very graphically intensive, has videos and stills on its front page, and scroll up and down as fast as I can. And you can really tell how fast a processor is. If it can do that smoothly, that's a fast machine. Most machines cannot. So browsing, which you might think, well, how hard could that be? It's coming in over the internet. It can't be one of the most challenging things I do on my computer. It is. Turns out nowadays it is, because we make these media-rich web pages. So it could well be that some of the pages you're visiting are so intense that they're choking the browser or the computer. It could be that the browser itself has some cruft in its caches. One of the ways we speed up surfing through the internet is the browser will save in something called a cache, images from pages you visited. So if you go back to that page, it doesn't have to get the image from the internet, which takes time. It has it already stored in its cache. You can pop that page up much faster. You'll notice that the second time you go to TheVerge.com, for instance, the page will load much faster. First time is slow, second time is much faster. That's because much of that stuff has been saved by the browser in the cache. Imagine, though, it saves something or accidentally that file gets damaged, or something in that file that's bad, and now it's crashing that page. The nice thing about Chrome is when Chrome crashes, typically only a tab will crash. Because Chrome, unlike other browsers, separates tabs into separate processes. So it could be that there's something in some cruft in your cache that's causing that problem. That's why clearing browsing data will empty that out. It has some side effects. You'll have to re-log into sites. It won't remember that you've been there before, as it does now, because you're clearing your cookies as well. It'll clear that cache out. Pages initially will load slower, but that might fix it by itself. It also may be that Chrome is damaged, in which case uninstalling and reinstalling it helps. That's kind of a standard thing to try with any program that's crashing a lot. And it could be that the browsing is taxing your computer. You'll notice if you watch your CPU, the processor, it will ramp up when you go to some of these pages. And it could be your computer's overheating, or it's taxing your computer more to go to those pages than just, say, writing an email. And it could be that, in fact, your computer is choking. It's unlikely. Usually, if it's that, it won't just be that browser tab or the browser itself. The whole thing will go. So it seems unlikely that it's that, but it's always a possibility. I would say it's probably the browser, and the first thing to do is clear the browsing history. Let's move on to Laxman in Fort Defiance, Arizona.
Hey, Leo.
Hey, Laxman, do you play lacrosse?
Hey, boo-boo.
Are you a lacrosse player, or are you just kind of lax in your personal appearance?
I'm sorry?
Never mind. What can I do for you?
Oh, yeah. I've been using Windows 7 as a limited user for so long. I've forgotten my...
Good man. That's how you're supposed to use it, according to Leo. That guy Leo says, don't use it. Don't be an administrative user when you use Windows day in, day out, because that means the bad guys are administrative users. You're a limited user. That's good. But don't forget your administrative password. Did you?
I did. Because I haven't used it for so long. I just forgot.
Well, that's not good. Which version of Windows are you using?
Windows 7.
Because Microsoft got better and better at the protecting the password. So there's something called Loft Crack. That is LOPHT crack.
LOPHT.
This is used by hackers around the world.
Okay.
To crack into the Windows administrative password, Loft Crack.
Oh, Loft.
L-O-P-H-T, Loft.
L-O-P-H-T.
Yeah.
Loft Crack.
Loft Crack. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, my goodness. Guess what happened? Symantec bought the company, and they've discontinued it. That's terrible.
Symantec.
Oh, darn you. Darn you, Symantec.
Yes, God.
All right, here's another one. We're gonna put Sci-Phase, who sounds like a hacker, in our chat room. He says pogostick.net has you can download. Here's what you do: you download a live CD. So you're going to download an ISO and burn it to a CD, and then boot the CD, and that will just remove the password. That's nice. Let's see. There seems like a number of ways to do this. I'll tell you what. We'll put them in the website, techguylabs.com. Programs you can download. This sounds like a good one. In fact, it sounds like if you're the kind of person that forgets your passwords, you probably should have this lying around. Now, if you don't have administrative rights, you won't be able to make this CD, I think. So you might have to borrow a friend's computer, create this bootable CD. So the idea is when Windows is running, it's hard to crack the password. But if you boot out to this, it's probably a Linux operating system on this disk, and run this program, it can kind of bang on Windows and remove the password. So that's a good solution. Erasing the password and starting over. My strong suggestion is that you do not lose your administrative password on your computer. That's kind of an important thing. Might be the single most important thing to remember. It's okay. Passwords are an interesting issue. The best passwords are the hardest to remember. So that's kind of a problem. And the administrative password on Windows is one of those that you can't really store in a password manager because you wouldn't be able to get to your password manager if you... I guess you could, because you could use the password manager and use it on your phone as well as your Windows. Somewhere you should put that Windows administrative password somewhere safe. It's actually okay to write it down and put it in a desk drawer. Chances are bad guys not going to be able to come into your office, sit down at your desk, take it out of your desk drawer. I mean, that's not what you're worried about. So next time, write it down and save it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. That's a good. I wasn't aware of that cracking tool, and I'm very disappointed to see the Loft Crack is gone. That's terrible. That was a very useful tool. So I'm going to look at this pogostick.net. We'll put this in the show notes. Offline NT password and registry editor. That is great. And this is up to date. The most recent is February this year. By the way, it doesn't have to be a CD. You could put it on a, if you can boot to USB, you could put it on a bootable USB disk key. Most modern computers, I think all Windows 7 computers can boot to a USB. Oh, should I try the Hey Siri thing? What is Twit? Hey, it found a children's book, and then it says, "Do you mean This Week in Tech?" Hey, thank you, Siri. Yes, thank you. Thanks. Spoon's good. I like the spoon. I like the spoon. That's good. So it said, "Do you mean This Week in Tech or the upper class twit of the year? Which do you mean?" See, it's still too small to show on screen, isn't it? It's still a little bit small. The new iPhones, I do believe, have a choice of voices. Siri, if you go to Siri, the Siri settings, I think it's in general. You can allow Hey Siri. I see you can't read that, can you? It's too bright. It's too bright. Still hard to read. So this says allow Hey Siri when the phone's plugged in only. When it's being charged, you can say Hey Siri, and it'll respond. Voice gender female or male. That's the two choices now. So let's try that. I'll do it here. How old is Leo Laporte?
Which one? You are 57.
It even knew you were asking?
Bastard. Well, yeah, because I told it who I am. So what it's doing is looking at my contacts. It's not like going out on the internet and finding that. But that's the male voice.
Why couldn't they have gotten a...
What's the weather like today?
Okay, here's the weather for today.
You might like a little boy in there.
He's not sexy enough. Can't he drop it down a little?
Okay, here's the weather for today. Hey, Heather, you're looking good today. Here's the weather. That's what you want.
Yeah. Come on.
Okay, here's the weather for today. It's not hot.
Not hot.
But neither is the female Siri, frankly.
No.
She sounds like a little strident, a little mean.
A little, yeah.
Let me try it with against female Siri. Voice gender female. So you don't have to change. You used to have to change the country to get a man voice. How hot is it today, Siri?
Not really. About 77 degrees Fahrenheit.
She has a lower voice than the guy.
She does.
Ask her what she's wearing if she changed that.
What are you wearing?
Why would I be wearing anything?
Yeah. Me and Siri. This is a new Siri voice. Yeah. Siri now has a male voice. It does not sound like Barry White. Hey, you should be able to go, "Hey, Barry," and see what happens. "Hey, Barry, how hot is it today?" Oh. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 88 Ask Leo. We're having too much fun with our technology. Frank in Los Angeles. Leo Laporte here. Hi, Frank. Hey, Frank.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
Well, the problem I have is that when I'm on the computer and like Adobe or Microsoft will say we have an update, do you want to install it? And I say yes. And then I get a pop-up that says, do you trust this source?
Yeah, and how are you supposed to know? Because it just popped up.
Yeah.
A bad guy could make a pop-up that looks exactly the same. It could pop up, and it would be not Microsoft or Adobe, but some bad guy installing stuff. So that's always been a little bit of a concern of mine, is that how do you know whether a pop-up's real or not? And you can't. You can tell if a web page is real or not, with a padlock or HTTPS. You know, there's we've created ways to validate that a web page is what it says it is. But pop-ups, no. So you're right to ask that question. Most people, and I admit, including myself, if it looks real, I just go, yeah. But we probably shouldn't. Here's what you should probably, you want to really be careful, Frank, and you should be. If you get that, say no, but then run Microsoft Update. Or say no and then run Adobe Update. And then because you chose it. It's always a matter of concern when something is pushed to you. If you go out to the web and go to adobe.com, you know you're in the right place because you typed it in. It's the same problem with clicking a link in an email. You can obfuscate that link so you don't see what you're actually doing. It looks like adobe.com, but it's really hacker.com. So I think, Frank, you're asking a really good question that I don't think enough people are asking, especially now that bad guys have become so ingenious, determined. They're often posing as legitimate sources. So that's a really good one. I think you're, Frank, that's the solution. Don't trust it and go out, and it's just consider it an alert.
Right.
That, oh, you need to update? Now I will explicitly go to Adobe and update.
Exactly.
Thank you, Frank.
Okay.
Great call, great question. The concomitant of that is when Adobe or Microsoft wants you to update, you should absolutely update. Adobe Flash, Adobe Reader both have had horrific what we call exploits, security flaws in them that allow a bad guy into your system. Anything that goes on the web is a target for the bad guys. And because Microsoft has done such a good job, frankly, of updating Windows, the bad guys have said, well, we can't attack Windows very successfully anymore. People are patching it. The patches are in most cases automatic. That means almost everybody's got it. They need to find a hole, an exploit, a vulnerability that has not been patched. So, and it needs to be something that goes out on the internet. Otherwise, it's hard for them to get it into your computer, right? They can't just walk in the door. Hey, do you mind if I install something on your computer? They got to do it over the internet. So any software that is used in the process of browsing the net is vulnerable. That's why Adobe Reader and Adobe Flash are two targets for the bad guys. Very commonly, as you're browsing around using your browser, if you get to a page that has, for instance, a PDF embedded on that page, most browsers by default are set to, oh, no problem, just load a PDF reader and display the page. Any kind of automatic behavior like that is dangerous, so if you can disable it, you should. Again, stuff that's pushed to you is riskier than stuff you go out and get. You get to a page and the page says, hey, I have a PDF, would you like to read it? If you explicitly click that link and open it in your reader, that's safer. But the bad guys know most people it's just automatic, it's going to launch. So cool. If we could hack Adobe Reader, then we could use the maliciously formed PDF file to attack their system. Same thing with a Flash file. Shockwave. Java is now a vulnerability as well because many browsers, it's automatic that when you get to a site with Java on it, maybe your solitaire game on the web, that it automatically loads the Java and runs it. And so you want to keep Java, Flash, and Adobe Reader all up to date, just as you do keep your browser up to date and your operating system up to date. Those are all equally important now. Maybe even more important to keep the internet stuff up to date. Bad guys have learned. You cannot assume they're stupid. Greg in Laguna Hills, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Yeah, hi, Leo.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay. Although last Sunday, my Windows PC got attacked by CryptoWall.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. So these are a variant. That's a variant of CryptoLocker. These are programs that malware that when installed on a computer will strong encrypt your data, and then get for ransom. They hold you a ransom, right? What did they ask for?
$500. Actually, 1.05 Bitcoin.
Which is about $500.
Yeah.
Wow. And the reason they use Bitcoin is because it's not traceable.
Right.
I am so sorry.
Yep. So it's history. The guys, those were criminals, and I'm not going to deal with them. I'm not going to pay the ransom.
Good.
So.
And this is, by the way, why if you have a good backup, you don't have to.
Well, and that's exactly why I'm calling. So I use Carbonite.
Good.
But by default, Carbonite only backs up from your C drive documents and settings.
Right.
So this is an engineering PC that I'm a self-employed guy. I use this PC for a lot of things. I kept a lot of projects outside of documents and settings, outside of my documents.
Yeah, you understand why the defaults on Carbonite are not going to be aggressive because it all has to be uploaded. So it's always important when you install Carbonite or any backup solution that you make sure it's backing up what you want to back up. And you can, of course, configure Carbonite to back up anything.
It's just not intuitive.
I agree. No, I understand, and I think people do get bit by this. It's very important and that you back up the stuff that you want to save, and it's not always exactly where Carbonite thinks it is. For instance, it won't by default back up video files; they're too big, but you can tell it to back them up. So, so you don't have a backup.
Well, Carbonite's going to go back, a few days before the infection, which I don't know how they do because I know it's an incremental backup, but
they do versioning on Windows, so they are able to go back to previous versions.
Yeah. So
they're also very good about and it's so great. I mean, it may not help you, but they're very. When you call Carbonite support, they are understanding. They know that you're in crisis, and they really do try to help you. I know somebody was telling us last week they actually sent him a hard drive with his backup on it. And said keep the drive. They're really good.
Actually, actually for me that might have been better because I am doing a restore. They did go back to some point where they were confident that my backup was not infected.
Oh, good.
But I'm downloading it. I'm doing the restore over the internet, and it's literally taking days.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. So one thing to understand about online backup is it is rate limited by your internet access.
Certainly.
and people, say, well, I want to back up a terabyte. Well, you probably don't on the internet. So I do recommend if you're going to use an online backup service like Carbonite, having a local backup as well. It's very important you check. I would call Carbonite and say, hey, can I get a hard drive? I need it now. And I bet you they'll help you out. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Johnny Jet's here. I can tell by the music. He's our travel guru, technology traveler. He's at home for the first time in ages. Hey, Johnny.
How you doing, Leo? It's nice to be back home in Southern California.
It was all over YouTube yesterday, and because it was on YouTube, it was all over the television. I saw it on the nightly news last night. I thought this is not a news story, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. The JetBlue emergency landing, I guess because everybody now has a video camera. There are multiple videos of the cabin filling with smoke. I guess apparently one of the engines went out. The captain said, we got an engine out. We're going to turn around and land. It's going to be an emergency landing. The gas masks, they're not gas masks. The oxygen masks came down. In this case, they might have been useful as gas masks, came down. The thing that's the scariest, and you see this in the video, when you are going to an emergency landing or any kind of rough landing like that, you're told to take the brace position. You put your head kind of down low, and you put your arms behind your head, and so the cabin attendants shout, "Brace, brace!" and they just keep shouting it, and that's to me that's the scariest part of the whole thing. These jets fly fine on one engine. They landed normally. The captain decided to evacuate, which meant that the slides came out, and we saw this as well. And nobody was hurt. Everything's fine. In fact, to me, it was reassuring. It was like, this works.
Right.
What was your reaction to it?
Oh, well, it's scary anytime to see that. On Twitter, there was all kinds of social media pictures going up. Right when they landed, you could see people with the oxygen masks on. So I've actually been in a couple of emergency landings. Nothing that crazy. One time we had a bird strike. So we I've only had 2 emergency landings in my life, and they were both in the same week.
Wow.
I was flying LA to Miami, and we had a stop in Arizona on the way there because there was smoke in the cabin. The oxygen mask did not come down, but we were met by a fire crew. We didn't have to go down the slide, and then on the way back to LA, we hit a bird strike. We had a bird strike flying out of Fort Lauderdale, and we had to land in Miami. And I was like, I'm done. I'm getting off. I'm not going back to L.A. And I took the train up
There's a
to go
message
see my
here.
sister. So I took a few days off before flying. But there's actually some courses.
Let me just say something, though, because I don't know if people know this. One of the reasons you became a travel writer is because you had an intense fear of flying.
I was not only afraid to fly, I was afraid to leave the house at one point growing up, between 18 and 21.
You were agoraphobic.
Well, I was diagnosed with asthma. My doctor gave me too much medication, so I had all kinds of anxiety. And
so I understand why after 2 rough landings, you might say, I'm not going to, but you went back in the air.
I got back. I mean, you got to do it, and especially when you're in my line of business. But, I do think about it. I always think about it, and unfortunately.
Yeah, my kids were telling me as they fly more that they've developed a fear of flying. But I think if you fly a lot, you actually get used to it. It doesn't bother me anymore.
Supposedly 1 in 3 adults have some kind of fear of flying.
Well, that's right. You're a few miles in the air. I understand that. But in fact, it's an extraordinarily safe form of transport. And when I watched the video like that, I thought this should not be on nightly news because nothing went wrong. Everything worked. No one was hurt. It was a safe procedure. And it was, to me, a testament of why flying is so safe.
Well, I'm going to do a British Airways course. They actually allow anyone to take this course. It's a safety course, and you learn all about, plane safety. And you go down the slide and all that stuff.
Oh, I want to do that. How do you do that?
So, actually, when you're in London, you can sign up. I think it's not expensive. I'll find out the exact price.
I'd really like to do that.
All right.
Because then, if you've done something, it's not so scary if you've done it before. So, yeah, we're going to go down the slide. That was fun. I like that.
I want to do it. Not an emergency situation. Let's get that straight.
No. And all things have peril. All of these forms of travel. Driving is far more dangerous. Right. But we're on the ground, so we don't get so scared.
Sure. Well, also in the news this week was Marriott came out with these place gratitude envelopes, tip envelopes, to put into 160,000 hotel rooms in North America. So guests will tip their maids.
Oh, do you tip? Are you a maid tipper?
I'm a big tipper, but I am against all these big corporations paying these maids and all these other workers minimum wage, and then while they're making millions, if not billions, and then offsetting it by doing stuff like this.
They're
they're not alone. They're not alone. But so there's actually a really good article I just tweeted by Joe Brackatelli that everyone should read, and it's not only about hotels but airlines. They're cutting contracts because they don't want to pay the pilots so much. And
you don't tip the pilots, do you?
No, you don't tip pilots. But
I think that would be insulting.
I always tip the maids, and I always tip van drivers and stuff like that. But I just still think they should be paid more. And so this brings me up my.
But before you go on, give us some instruction. Okay. How much should you tip your maid?
Well, it all depends on the country. Like in Japan, you don't tip at all. You're offending them.
So that's one thing that's true in France too. You should know the tipping customs. But in the United States, we tip. How much do we tip?
Well, I usually tip $2 to $3 a night to the maid, and I give it to them in person.
Oh, you don't leave it under the pillow?
Well, I do leave it under the pillow sometimes if I can't find them. Okay. But I do. I try to do it in person. That way, I have a rapport with them.
You don't know who's
they're not going to go through my bags. Yeah. And usually, actually, when I'm staying at places, I put the do not disturb sign on my door for a couple days. I don't need them to change my towels. I don't need them to change my sheets. I don't do it at home. Why would I do it while I'm on the road?
Do you tip at the end of your stay, or you tip each night?
Oh, each night. You got to do it each night.
Okay. I do $5 to $10 a night because I guess
that's good. I mean, that's better. It all depends on the size of the room.
Anybody who has ever worked in a service profession as a waiter or a maid tips, because you know how important that is. And it's the people who've never done it who don't know it. And believe me, I am a big over tipper.
But you want to do it daily because it might not be the same maid.
Yeah. Good. So, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to slow you down, but I think this is a good thing to talk about.
No, I'm with you. Yeah. I just know we have just a very limited time, and so there's a website actually called tipthismuch.in.
Oh, I love it.
This was my website of the week this past week in my newsletter. I don't completely agree with it because in the U.S. it says 10 to 30%, which I think 30% is pretty much insane for tipping. I usually tip 20% for good service or 25 max. Huh. So, but it has all different countries, and so a lot of times, people ask me how much you tip in such and such country. I can't remember all the time, so I got to look it up.
So tipping is uncommon in Vietnam, for instance. I'm going to the United Kingdom, 10 to 15%. So, Vegas, 100 to 200%. It just depends where you are, right? They really expect, everybody wants to be tipped in Vegas. I've never seen more hands held out in my life.
Oh, for sure. You know, the guy opening the door for the valet, you know, they make more money than anybody.
No, and he's not doing anything. He's opening a door. Give him a buck.
I would like to have that job.
Yeah.
I would kill it.
It is one of the hottest jobs in Vegas. Are you kidding?
But there is one, when you do go to Vegas, by the way, if you're not happy with your room, I heard this trick. I'm sure the hotels are going to kill me. But if you have the bellman take you up to the room and you don't like it, you slip him some money, usually a 20 or even a 50, and say, hey, can you get me a better room? And they'll usually call down to the front desk and they'll get you a better room.
Oh, that's nice. I always take my own bags up. I'll stop doing that.
I do too, but...
Well, we know you travel light because there was a great LA Times article about Aer Lingus' new policy to charge for baggage, and both you and your wife Natalie were quoted in it as poster children for the Light Packing Society.
Well, we travel very lightly, and our first trip, I was telling you earlier that we were going on a weekend trip, and she had literally like a, you know, one of those big old shipping crates. And I was like, whoa, this is not going to work. And then I showed her the light, and now she packs lighter than me. And I'm like, please, you need to check a bag. She's like, I'm not checking a bag.
Go to JohnnyJet.com for all his tips. Sign up for his newsletter. Follow him on Twitter. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I use that, as always, I use it for time. See, I like talking to you, Johnny. I always use up your time.
I know.
Flyingwithconfidence.com. Flyingwithconfidence.com are the British Airways courses, if you want to. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888. Ask Leo. We were talking with Johnny Jet about air travel and the fact that now most airlines have started to charge for bags, which really fries me. I could see the second bag, right? But first bag should be free. And on some airlines, they're making it an advertising thing. And I asked him, I said, Johnny, I remember they started doing this because fuel prices went through the roof, and American Airlines in particular were going bankrupt. They were losing money year after year. And so they instituted all these extra fees. There's an airline in the UK that charges for access to the bathroom on the plane. But it's a budget airline, and that's how they, I guess make ends meet. But I said, but Johnny, how are the airlines, the U.S. airlines doing today? And he said they're doing really well. I think they've just said, hey, the other guys charge them. We should charge too. We can make a little more money. Oh, well. I guess this could be a competitive advantage for an airline. Hint, hint. 8888, ask Leo. Let's go to Kimberly in one of my favorite places in the world, Maui. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I have a couple of questions, and I've been dealing with this for quite a while. But first of all, I do want to tell you, you saved my day. A few months ago, I had a cracked laptop screen, and instead of getting a new computer, you told me how to go about getting a new screen.
And it worked?
And I got it for $80, and my local guy here with Q&A Image, they installed it for me, and $80 instead of $1,200.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
So I love you.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so glad to hear it. And that laptop's still running fine?
Oh, yeah, it's
Good.
fine.
You know, I think the tech industry implies that you just need to upgrade all the time. Look at this whole iPhone thing and these long lines.
Oh, no.
Now, who can afford that? That's crazy.
My 4S went swimming a few months ago, so I had to get the 5S or the whatever,
And you'll be happy with that for a few years. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Don't get the peer pressure to upgrade every 3 minutes. That's crazy.
No, I don't do that.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
If it's not working, don't fix it, right?
If it ain't broke, well, even if it is broke, you might be able to fix it.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yes, I know what you mean. So what can I do for you today?
Okay, well, two problems. One is I have constantly Adobe Flash plug-in is crashing, and I have uninstalled it, reinstalled it, rebooted the computer. I've done this a million times. I've even gone through the Adobe site to reinstall it, and it just keeps crashing. And it happens on Facebook. It happens on web pages. It happens everywhere.
Flash is just a nightmare. It's one of the reasons Apple decided back in 2007 not to support it on the iPhone, then in 2010 on the iPad. And because Apple withdrew support for Flash, a lot of sites are moving away from it. Not enough, not fast enough. But it is not only, you know, a pig, really fat, and really unreliable. It's also a security flaw. Nevertheless, you need it. In fact, if you want to watch our video of the show, you need Flash. So I'd be the last person to say,
I can't do it.
yeah, I'd be the last person to say, get rid of it. You do need it. But it's also well known that it's, you know, problematic. So you sounds like you've done everything I'd recommend. You've fully uninstalled it and reinstalled it. What browser are you using?
Well, I have Firefox, but I use another browser called XQuick. I was
so
told
you
that
keep those browsers up to date, but I'll tell you that
my other question about the browser too, because I sorry to interrupt, but you know, I have, you know, it says I need to update Firefox, but then when I go to update Firefox, it says your Kaspersky will not work properly.
sometimes that happens where your security software, in fact, gets in the way. In fact, one of the reasons I'm very pleased that Microsoft, one of the few good things I have to say about Windows 8 is it has an antivirus built in, and really that's the preferable solution. A lot of antiviruses and security software are so aggressive they actually get in the way. And for instance, for Kaspersky to get in the way of updating Firefox is a security flaw because you have to keep your browser up to date. So my suggestion is to turn off Kaspersky for the moment, update Firefox, and then you can turn it back on. Or, and this is my real suggestion, which is use Chrome, Google's browser, because it has Flash. Well, hold on a second. It has Flash built in. So it will be reliable with Flash, and it may be the only way you can use Flash. What is this other browser you're using?
It's called XQuick, and the reason why I use it is because it doesn't track your web pages.
Ah, so you're worried about what people know about you.
Right, and, you know, I run a business and so forth, and so I'm doing a lot of searching and whatnot, and then I get inundated with a billion messages, you know, emails and whatnot. Yeah. And I know Chrome is notorious, you know, Google, for keeping all that information.
Yeah, and what do you, just out of curiosity, what do you think they do with that information?
They inundate me with junk mail.
No, they don't.
Well, my
no,
junk
they don't.
mail
No, they don't.
is.
Google does not send or encourage or give anybody information that would encourage them to send spam. That spam is just the way it is. What Google, you should understand, and you may still feel this way, but you should understand what Google does with this. They use it to customize the banner ads or bad anners, the banner ads that they display on Google sites and sites that use Google AdSense. So you will get ads that are tuned to the things you search for and talk about in emails and so forth. That's all they do with it. So you do not get spam because of Google. In fact, Gmail is probably the best anti-spam solution in the world. One of the reasons you get spam is because you're not using Google's mail solution.
Well, I don't use Gmail.
I know. That's why you get spam.
I have my own domain.
You can still use Gmail with it, but
I know, but
I'm worried about this worried about this XQuick as well. We don't know who these guys are. Just because someone says they're the most private search engine in the world doesn't mean they are. In fact, I would trust Google more than I would trust XQuick.
Okay.
Because who's keeping XQuick honest?
XQuick, I guess.
Yeah, well, who are they?
Yeah, well...
Do you know, the thing about Google, you know who they are, and Google's being kept honest by all the eyeballs who don't trust them, monitoring everything they do every moment of the day. It's not in Google's interest to do something like send you spam because... And this is the thing that there is such a strong anti-Google, Google culture because we feel like they're spying on us. But if you really understand what they're doing, they are keeping track of things you search for so that they can give you ads that are more appropriate. That does not bother me. They are not sending you spam. They are not.
I hate those ads. I hate those.
You're going to get ads. But you're going to get ads. You don't get more ads because of it. You're going to get ads. Ads are always going to be in your world because that's how all these free services are paid for. I don't know who pays for XQuick.
Okay. It was actually recommended by another talk show.
Yeah. So let me ask you about XQuick. This is a service that costs them money. Who's paying for that?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
So either they're just wonderful altruists. Maybe Mother Teresa runs XQuick.
Oh.
Either they're wonderful altruists or they have some way to make money.
Okay.
Google's very forthright about what they do with the information and how they make money. In fact, because they understand people are concerned about this, they even give you a dashboard, google.com/dashboard, that tells you everything they know, gives you the option to delete it if you wish, gives you choices about tracking. Other sites might claim to be private, but I'd like to know how they make money.
Okay.
I don't know who they are.
Okay.
I mean, they have lots of information on their page, but does that... I could put anything on a page.
Right.
Okay, but that's not what you called. You called about Flash. It may be that the browser, whatever... By the way, XQuick probably isn't a browser. XQuick is almost certainly Internet Explorer with a skin on it.
It works with Firefox.
Okay, so it's Firefox. I'd try Chrome. We got to go. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And I'll talk some more with you in a second. The thing to understand is everything you do on the internet is trackable. Everything you do with your smartphone is trackable and is likely being tracked by a lot of people, including Apple, including your internet service provider. Anything you do, you're in the internet, you're effectively doing in public, period. So I understand there's a little concern, but if you're really concerned, if you want privacy, don't use the internet. It is impossible to use the internet privately, period. The only thing that can protect you, and some people do this, is end-to-end trust no one encryption, where before you put anything outside of your computer, first of all, you'll have to go to extreme lengths, not just running Kaspersky. You'll have to go to extreme lengths to lock your computer down. And then you must use strong encryption on everything that it emits from your computer. And anything you store on the internet, anything you send on the internet. Now, that means you can't use Facebook. That means you can't use XQuick. It means you actually can only email to other people who know what keys to use. You very much you can use the internet, but you have to use end-to-end encryption, which is only available in some very constrained situations. When you surf Amazon, Amazon knows where you go, but so does your internet service provider and anybody along the way. Everything you do on the internet is like you're at a mall in public. So there's this a myth, I think, that, well, if I don't use Google, I'm okay. You're gonna get ads. The question is, are you going to get ads I had this conversation with somebody yesterday in the line at the Apple store. He says, well, he said, I don't want ads that are tailored to me because I'm afraid I'll buy those things. He says, I prefer ads that are random because I'm not inclined to buy, death insurance or whatever it is that they're advertising, barbed wire. I don't know why people think using DuckDuckGo is better. All DuckDuckGo. And by the way, you can go incognito on Chrome, and you can go incognito on your iPhone. I don't know why you'd think I don't know exactly what it is you're worried about. The only thing the legitimate thing to worry about would be that the federal government would become malign and then would be interested in exactly what you're doing on the internet so they could use that against you. And if that's what you're worried about, we got bigger problems. than whether you're using Google or not. These corporations are not malign. They're interested in giving you they're monetizing. They're giving you free stuff. Everything you use on the internet is free for the most part. Somebody has to monetize that. And the way in most cases you monetize it is with advertising. And all they're trying to do is give you more effective advertisements. I understand people kind of their visceral response, but I feel like if your a rational response would be a little bit different. But you do have the choice. But I think that what you don't understand is that to really be private requires perhaps a more draconian choice than you're willing to make. Apple and Microsoft are pretending to be more privacy concerned. And in some regards they are. Yeah, if privacy is your concern, you need to stop using credit cards. You need to stop using the internet. You probably should move away from the city that you're in. And by the way, remember we talked about the warrant canary that Apple had used in their statement about what information the government seeks? There was language in the previous release that said something like the U.S. government has never asked for and we have not released certain kinds of information. And people widely consider that what's called a canary. You put that statement in. If that statement disappears, that means they have. That statement disappeared in the last transparency report. So if it was indeed a canary, then Apple has tacitly given us the news that that information is now being fed to the U.S. government. And when you saw the fact that the NSA several years ago was fining, or what was the story? I should actually talk about this. $250,000 a day, going up geometrically. To Yahoo. When was this? This was, oh, that's the Post. Let me find a better source. The Verge. This will be a good one. We trust The Verge a little more. So this was, I think, 2007, I want to say. Let me look and see. At one point during the proceedings, the government threatened to fine $250,000 a day for every day it refused to comply with the fisc court. So presumably Yahoo, which, you know, as big as it is, probably can't afford $250,000 a day, gave in. Well, do you think that this is a once-only occurrence? It is absolutely reasonable to worry about a malign federal government because they've got guns, tanks, law enforcement. It's reasonable to worry about law enforcement being overreaching because they can do bad things to you. And there's lots of history of governments using whatever information they could glean from any source against you. Google's not going to come to your house and arrest you. Google, at the worst, it's going to give you an ad that's something you're more interested in. No, actually, at the worst, it's going to think you're more interested in, but you're not. That seems not so bad. And if you're worried about Google giving the government information, well, I know for a fact they're only giving the government what they absolutely have to by federal law. You should go to Congress and get them to change the Patriot Act and change the federal law. But it's not just Google, it's everybody, including Ixquick, whoever the hell they are. And that information is available in so many ways from so many sources, including who knows more about you, what you do than anybody? Your internet service provider. They see every bit of traffic coming and going. And if I'm the federal government, the first thing I would do is go to the internet service provider and say, hey, could you just keep everything that you get for, I don't know, a couple of years? Oh, they did. I don't think blocking ads is a good solution either, because that's how these companies monetize. When you block ads, you're cheating. You're saying, oh, I want to use The Verge, but I don't want to have them monetize it. Well, you're cheating. It costs them money to do what they do, or me, or anybody, and that's how they monetize it. You should not visit The Verge if you don't like ads, or whatever. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number, the website, techguylabs.com. Quite a good conversation going on with the chat room over privacy and the internet. It's a conversation we have a lot. I think I probably have what some would consider an extreme position on this. If you're using the internet, you're in public, and you have no expectation of privacy. You have to go to great lengths to be private on the internet. Lengths nobody goes to, or maybe only terrorists and bad guys go to. The rest of us just kind of, oh, well, I'm going to use X quick, and that should be good enough. It doesn't matter, really. If it makes you feel better, good. Personally, I use Google like crazy. I turn on all the features because I like what I get from it. I find it very useful. I think Gmail is the best email program out there, and I get no spam through Gmail. It's a wonderful anti-spam solution. And so it's worth it to me. Now, I'm getting a free service from them, and in return, all they're saying is we'd like to show you some ads, and if you don't mind, we'll collect information about what you search for and write about so that we can give you ads that are germane. And frankly, if I'm going to see ads, I'd rather see an ad for something I'm interested in than something I have no interest in, and otherwise it's just a waste of space. But there is no privacy on the net. That's an illusion. So don't, in fact, get rid of your credit cards, too, while you're at it. And, oh, by the way, are you watching TV? Okay. They're watching you back. Your cable company knows exactly what you're doing and sells that. I just feel like I understand people's desire for privacy. I do. And if you wish to chase it, do. But it's going to require a lot more than you think. A lot more work than you think. And just saying, well, I use Dogpile, I'm safe, that search engine is safe. Yeah, well, good, that's nice. I would just say don't use it to the point where it's inconveniencing you because it's not doing anything. Daniel in Glendora, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo, how's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. So cool to hear your voice on my phone.
Well, it's nice to talk to you on the phone and on the radio.
Well, I thought the last question went a little bleak, so I'm going to ask a really basic question. I'm going to take it for the team.
Okay. That's good. I wish more people would do that because I guess I can pretty much guarantee if you ask a question that sounds too simple, everybody in the audience is going, oh, thank goodness he asked that. I've always been, I didn't want to look stupid. So that's good. Ask the dumb ones. That means most of the time the question you think is stupid is actually the best question to ask.
Well, you kind of explained it on iPad today about battery life. So with this whole Hey Siri function only working when the phone's plugged in, how does that affect battery life?
Well, that's why. So this is something new in iOS 8, the latest version of Apple's operating system for mobile. Is you can, if you go in the Siri settings, you can turn on, I love it too, you can turn on something called Hey Siri, and it doesn't work when you're not plugged in. Right. It only works when you're plugged in because it uses battery life. In order for the phone to be always listening or the tablet to be always listening, it has to power up the processor and have there's some program. Think about it. An iPad is just a brick of glass and electronic components until it's powered up. And it doesn't do anything unless a program is running, right? It's just a dead device. So a program has to be running that's always going, what is he saying? What is he saying? Is he say something? He say something? And if it matches the waveform that looks like Hey Siri, it goes, hey, he said it, and Siri wakes up. So that takes juice.
Sure.
So that's why Apple says we won't do this unless you're plugged in, unless you're getting power, because otherwise your battery would die fast.
Sure. So is it like the only times I would see myself using it really is when I'm driving, right? So I'll plug it in and...
Yeah, and that's actually probably what Apple's thinking. Or maybe you're sitting at your desk and you have a dock and you want to be able to look over and say, hey, Siri. By the way, Google Chrome will do this on most desktop operating systems. You can say, okay, Google, while you're on a search page. You don't have to type anything. It'll do the search for you. We're going to see this more and more on a lot of devices. Devices that are always plugged in, it's free. It's not free, but it's basically free. On a device that's running off of battery, it's a little more costly. Now, Motorola, which is still a Google company for a little bit longer, makes a phone called the Moto X. New version just came out. I love it. It's going to be a battle in my pocket between the iPhone, the new iPhone, and the new Moto X. But it's always listening. And the way they can do that without killing battery life is it has a special processor designed just for that. And it's a much lower power processor, so it can run in the background and just sip at juice while it's waiting for you to say, "Hey, Moto X," or whatever you program into it. It does the same function, which is as soon as it hears that, it's just comparing waveforms. It's not sending. By the way, this is a good example of privacy concerns. What? My phone's always listening? Yeah. Well, could it be sending stuff back to Apple or Google? Well, it could be. It's not, but it could be. Well, you mean like the NSA could just be listening to me all the time? Well, they could be. They're not, but they could be. The way it works, the way the companies tell us it works, is without sending data back to the home office. It's just comparing the waveform of what the sound it's hearing with a template, and it's just matching it all the time. And if it matches, it goes ding, and it lights up and says, "What do you want?" That, to me, that's not a big deal. But I guess the bottom line on this privacy argument, I'm sorry I'm getting back to that, is it's anytime you're using anything, there's a certain level of trust. Civilization is about trust. When you drive down the road, you trust that the driver coming in the other direction is not going to steer his car into you and kill you. And you do that every moment you're driving your car. And we don't think about it, but it is. Civilization is trust. I trust that the power will continue to come from the electric company, that the water will continue to come from the water company, and that, you know, we only have about 4 days worth of food in the United States, that food will continue to come into the United States because at the minute it stops, we all starve to death. There is a huge amount of trust in civilization. And anytime you use a computer device, you are trusting that the manufacturers of that device and every software developer or software running on that device is not malicious. Because if they were, they'd have everything. Apple, because I'm holding a phone in my hand, there's no way for me to know whether Apple has the microphone on and is listening all the time. I have to trust they're not.
Sure. And like you said, you know, with Google being a bigger company, they have to be accountable to a lot more people. So in some ways, they are safer. Because
I don't know who these Ixquick guys are.
Yeah.
So I know who Google is. Now, yeah, Google could be malicious. Any company you use could be malicious. And because of the opaque nature of technology, unless you're a computer genius, you don't know what it's doing.
Sure.
I don't know what the code in this iPhone is doing or the hardware is doing. And I know a lot about technology, and I still don't know. I would say almost nobody, if not nobody, does. Even at Apple knows everything this thing is doing.
Yeah.
So, to get back to your question, that's what's going on. That's why they only do it when they're powered up. They don't want to kill the battery. It's a nice, I think it's a nice feature.
Totally. So back to battery life, right?
Yeah.
So is it bad that I am charging my phone like just for short amounts of time?
No. So here's the deal, and this is the dumb question that is the question on everybody's mind. My daughter actually called and asked me this the other day. Should I leave my computer plugged in or not? So all our stuff is now running on something, some variant of a lithium-ion battery. Here's the nature of lithium-ion batteries is they have a certain number of charge cycles. That is, number of times they can be fully charged and discharged. Typically 500, but it could vary. So let's use 500. That's 500 full charges, 500 full discharges. A half charge is a half. So that 2 half charges equals 1 of the 500. A quarter charge equals 1/4 of the 500. So you can do 2,000 quarter charges. There's no, the nice thing about lithium ion, the reason we've chose this as a technology is there's no memory effect. It doesn't hurt it to only quarter charge it. Despite what many companies say in their instructions, you don't have to fully charge it before you use it. You don't have to fully discharge it at any time. There's no training or conditioning required. It just works 500 times, and then you'll need a new one. It'll stop working. And it's very simple. So keep your stuff plugged in so it doesn't discharge. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. It's so much easier in the world. Hi, dear. What can I do for you? It would be so much easier for me, and I would probably be a much more successful broadcaster if I were to just tell easy fairy tale stories. If I were to say, yes, you know what? Don't trust Google, but you can trust Ixquick. That would make my life much easier. It wouldn't challenge anybody. Everybody go, oh, that's good. Ixquick, let me write that down. And everybody go along happier. And I probably should do that. Because everybody would be happier. There'd be much less stress in the world. But it's not true. And so I don't know why, but for some reason I really feel like what I want to do is to the best of my ability, which is because I'm human and I'm flawed, not far from perfect, but to the best of my ability, determine what's true and say what's true, and continually strive to go in that direction, as opposed to what most media does, which is to tell us a nice fairy tale that makes everybody feel better. Because ratings are always much better if everybody feels better. And I don't know why I'm not constituted that way. It's one of the reasons I'm not on mainstream media, but I'm on my own little, cul-de-sac over here at Twit, is because that's what I, as in my life, want to do. And of course, we would have millions more listeners on the radio show and on the podcast if we just told nice fairy tales. People who listen to Mac Break Weekly are really, some people go, why do you say bad things about Apple? It hurts them. Or Windows Weekly. How come you're so mean to Microsoft? I'm not mean, or I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to get at the truth. And probably if we did Mac Break Weekly and we just, Apple's the greatest and I love Apple, they're wonderful, isn't this beautiful? You should all, people would be much happier. Same thing with Windows Weekly and every other show. It would be much easier all around. But that's not, if you want that, you should tune in CBS, ABC, and NBC, because except for the fact that one of the mythologies that they also tell is that the world is going to hell in a handbasket. That's another thing that news especially really likes that. So I love this plane video. They show, emergency landing, and the story really is, wow, it all worked. Everybody was safe. That's really impressive. The plane's engine flamed out. These things happen. The pilot did everything right. The flight attendants did everything right. Passengers didn't panic. It all worked. Nobody died. Nobody got sick. It worked. It's beautiful, amazing. But that's not the story that news wants to tell. The story of we are on the brink of disaster at every possible moment. So, I probably should put a disclaimer at the beginning of our broadcasts. This may make you angsty. This show might bother you. And so one of the things I try to do, it's not easy, boy, it's really hard, is use all of the stuff and try to approach it with kind of an open mind. Like the stuff that I think is good, question the stuff that I don't think is good. And understandably, this is just my opinion. But it's an informed opinion because I've been using this stuff for 40 years, and I use it all, and I make an effort to do that. And I don't talk to PR people. I don't make friends with anybody at the companies and stuff like that, hoping that I can stay as objective as possible. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888, Ask Leo. Moving on. Take another call. Let's go to Steve in Glendora. I always want to say, how are things in Glendora? It's not Glockamora, it's Glendora. How you doing, Steve?
Pretty good. I have a friend of mine went out and bought one of those iPhone 6s or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he gave me his iPhone 4. I thought,
nice guy. Yeah.
Nice guy, yeah. But his carrier is Verizon.
Uh-oh.
My carrier is T-Mobile.
Yeah, he was a nice guy, but he gave you something you can't use.
That's it, huh?
So, yeah, let me talk about the different kinds of... There's a general confusion over carrier locking, radio capability, CDMA versus GSM, subsidized versus unsubsidized. These are all terms that are they're kind of conflated and floated around. So your problem is that the phone he gave you is a CDMA phone. It uses the CDMA technology. Your carrier, T-Mobile, uses GSM technology. Oh, so you don't have, that phone doesn't have the radios. It literally doesn't have the radios that you need to use your carrier. There will be an additional issue, which is that it's carrier locked, that phone is locked to Verizon, but that doesn't even matter, even if you got it unlocked, because they're not compatible carriers.
But see, what really bothers me is Verizon didn't give him this phone. He bought the phone.
Well, that's fine, but it's like, he bought it's like trying to watch TV on your radio. They're different.
Yeah.
It's not Verizon's fault. He owns that phone. He can give it to you, but whether you'll be now, you can use it on Verizon. It's not that it's locked. It's that it's just not the same kind of phone. It's not a compatible phone.
Darn.
I know, I'm sorry.
I'd rather get hit by a truck than
buy an iPhone? Yeah, I don't blame you.
No, than be hooked up to Verizon because they raised it.
So it's interesting because in the more modern iPhones, I think this started with the iPhone 5, Verizon has moved towards something called LTE and eventually voice over LTE. They're moving away from CDMA. And in the iPhone 5 or later phones, there is a SIM card. You can put a T-Mobile SIM in it and use it. In fact, the very first thing I did when I got the new iPhone last night is I put a T-Mobile SIM. This is a Verizon iPhone, carrier locked, on the Verizon network. I put a T-Mobile SIM card in it, and it worked fine on T-Mobile. So that's the good news. And this, I think, goes back to a Verizon lawsuit and the FCC requirement that they cannot carrier lock the SIM slots. The iPhone 4 doesn't have a SIM slot. A Verizon iPhone 4 is not going to work. It's hardware incompatible. So there's carrier locking, which is, and this is another thing that's annoying, and also the laws have changed a little bit on this. But there's carrier locking, which is, and it's unique to the U.S. and Canada, which is a carrier saying, "Hey, you bought this subsidized phone from Verizon, we won't let you use it on any other network." That's called carrier locking. And the Congress just voted, and the president signed a bill that said, no, the carriers need to unlock those phones after a certain period of time. Once you've paid it off and you own it, understand the reason you get an iPhone for $200 is because the actual cost is $600, but Verizon is going to get the extra $400 over 2 years. They're going to make you sign up for 2 years. And if you leave in those 2 years, they're going to make you pay. But the Congress said, but after you're good, after you've served out your term, your servitude, then Verizon has to unlock it. So you can get a phone unlocked. It's not going to help if the phone is physically incapable of working on another network, which your iPhone 4 is. I hope that makes sense. I know it's crazy, isn't it? Jeff in Canoga Park, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Leo.
What can I do for you?
Well, my my Apple desktop here was stolen.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Gosh, that's terrible.
Well, with these tracking systems they have, on my phone and on my laptop, I was able, once they turned it on, it was pinging on a little map where my computer was.
So you had turned on Find My iMac, or Find My Mac. Yeah. Good.
And I got it back.
Ow! Did you get law enforcement involved?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should. This is something very important. You may know where your Mac is, but that doesn't mean you should go to their house and say, "Can I have my Mac back?"
Yeah, no way.
They may not be nice people.
Yeah, that's right. So I erased everything. Once they turned it on, there's a feature where I can erase everything. I erased my passwords and all my vital information.
Ah, that's such a nice feature.
But now, how do I get back on it? It's locked me out.
You have to start over. You have to wipe it.
Okay.
Yeah. The good news on especially recent Macs, you have a recovery partition in it. You just when you boot it up, Command-Option-R, I think that's what it is. Command-Option-R goes into recovery mode. You don't need a disk, and you can reinstall the operating system and start over.
Well, it says it has what comes up is your system lock pin code.
Oh, this is good. This is kind of like the thing that California recently voted in. It's activation locked, so you can't reuse it, and that means the bad guy can't steal a Mac and then have somebody else use it.
Right.
Now I'm not sure what you do. You don't have that PIN code?
I don't. I wouldn't even know.
You said it. You probably said it at some point.
Yeah.
I think this is a call to Apple.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think this is a call to Apple. This is good. This is this is the kill switch. And, normally we use it on phones because they get stolen so often. Desktops don't get stolen that often. But it's and Apple's recently put this on their desktops as well. It means that somebody cannot steal a Mac. Bad guys take note. Cannot steal a Mac and use it.
That's right.
Isn't that great?
It's great. It's great.
The idea is to discourage theft. Obviously, in this case, it didn't work. And now you've got to figure out a way to unlock it. I'm really glad you got it back, though. That's good.
Yeah, it works perfectly. I was even able to send them a message, and that message is stuck on the screen. The message that I sent the bad guy is sitting here still locked on the screen.
What's the message? Is there profanity in it? Don't repeat that. But
I don't think I should.
You son of a gun! Yeah, I think you're. I'll be honest. I don't know of a way around that. And Apple wouldn't tell anybody that publicly because they don't want the bad guys to know. But I bet you Apple has a way around it. Otherwise, you have a useless Mac. That wouldn't be good. They might say bring it into the Apple Store. That's one thing you could do.
Should I call the Apple Store or just call Mac?
Just call Apple Care. Even if you don't have an Apple Care account, you just call Apple Care, their helpline, and they'll tell you what to do. And I bet you're going to have to bring it to the Apple Store. But I don't know. Actually, let me know what happens. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And good on Apple. It's a good idea. It's a brilliant thing. I love it that they're doing this. So here's what is it? XQuick says. How can Start Page, which is the XQuick service, be free? Well, they're free because like many other websites and internet services, we generate our income from advertising. When you perform a Start Page search, you may see up to 3 sponsored search results. Oh, okay. So they do make money via advertising. Our ads are anonymous, generated on the search term you entered. Well, okay. But we don't pay attention to your past searches, browser history, or tracking cookies. We don't use those things. And we don't share any privacy-sensitive user data, such as IP address or cookie information, with any provider. If this makes you feel better, go ahead and use it. Of course, you have to trust that this is true. And so really, I guess I really should focus on that. We live in a modern world where we trust at all times. We're in a web of trust with everybody around us. And it's particularly true on black box things like software, computers, hardware. It's a black box. And so you don't know. You don't know what they're doing. They can say what they're doing. But if I were a bad guy, would I say what I'm doing? No, I'd lie to you. It's called trust. And so if you trust Start Page or XQuick and this statement makes you happy, fine. And apparently some people don't trust Google. Okay. I don't think there's evidence in any direction. I think you're more likely not to have your trust betrayed by a big publicly traded company because the consequence of that is much higher than it is to some company in the Netherlands that nobody ever heard of. What's the consequence to XQuick of lying? Zip. What's the consequence of Google if it gets caught lying? Significant. Could put them out of business. So there you go. That's, that's all that's all you can use. What are you going to use? I don't care if Google or anybody, including the federal government, knows my search terms. I don't really see the hardship. I think people kind of feel like it's somebody peering in their window. There you go. That's a good paper on trusting trust. This is a famous paper by Ken Thompson, who invented Unix and C. He describes a backdoor put into the login program of Unix and the C compiler. And there you go. Well, I think Facebook gets away with it because people find two things. People don't feel that the privacy invasions, the weird things that Facebook does, don't bother people, apparently, because I think people know about them. And two, they find Facebook so useful, they're willing to put up with it. And so to me, that's what you do. If you're a Google or a Facebook, I think what you ethically should do is be very forthright about what you're doing, what you're collecting, and how you use it. And then say, and here's what we offer in return, and that's your choice. That's the right way to handle that. And I think both Facebook and Google do that. Facebook seems like they skeeve around a little bit, but doesn't apparently. People like Facebook so much, they don't care. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Bob's on the line from San Diego. He wants to back up everything with one fell swoop. Hi, Bob.
Hey, Leo. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for taking the call. Long-time listener here, by the way.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Oh, all my pleasure, my friend. Look, the reason I'm calling you is I really respect your input. And I'm somewhat computer savvy. One of the struggles that I've had over the years is we're really big about backing up all of our data in our company. We've done it for years.
Right
We've
on.
always used Carbonite. Really happy with that. But Leo, one of the programs that I've used over the years is the program called Acronis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, True Image. It's a image backup.
Yeah, and the reason that I've turned to that is a frustration that I've had whenever I would lose a hard drive. It isn't so much just saving all of my documents. I'm always able to do that, but all of the challenges going through and reinstalling all of the programs and all of those other things that need to be done. And do you have a recommendation for a program that does a real image? So if I do lose a hard drive, I could just simply reinstall everything?
Yeah. So backup is, as I think people are starting to figure out, a complex story, and businesses have different needs than individuals. For instance, in a business, it's really important to get up and running fast. That means not just preserving your data so you can get it back, but really getting your computers running again is critical. So if a hard drive dies, you want to get that computer running again within seconds or minutes as fast as you can, because that's money lost every minute that it's down. That's a very different thing than an end user who says, well, I could take the weekend to restore my data. As long as I don't lose my data, I don't mind reinstalling Windows. Those are two different needs. So backup is a broad term that really varies depending on what you're looking for. Ultimately, what it means is you don't lose anything. And so all backup is designed to say, I'm not going to lose anything I made. I can get back to where I was. Some backup takes longer than others. An image is nice because what an image does is it takes the whole hard drive as it's constituted today with operating system, programs, patches, data, everything, and saves it. And that's the fastest way to recover because you can restore an image in minutes. When we did the TV show The Screensavers, every computer we use, now this is a live television show, and computers break, computers go down, and we use this many times. And actually, when we set up the Screensavers, this is one of the things I asked for. Every computer on the set had two hard drives, one that it was using and one that contained image backups. So if anything went wrong with the computer or it got malware or the hard drive died, I could immediately restore a backup within the 3 or 4 minutes we had for a commercial break and be back running. That's because we need to do live TV. So I love images. That in those days was Norton Ghost. Acronis True Image is a very good solution. I for years used a German company, a German program called Drive Snapshot. DriveSnapshot.de. That's a very good choice. The reason I started using that is it let me continue to run Windows while I made the image. Norton Ghost, you had to exit out of Windows because it couldn't image a drive while it was being used. And then my friend Steve Gibson, who's a hard drive guru, who had originally recommended Drive Snapshot, has also one he likes called Drive Image. There are other choices too. There's CloneZilla, which is a free solution, but it's a Linux, basically a Linux distro designed for cloning, but it is free. There are on a Macintosh, I recommend Super Duper. That's what I use for a Macintosh. It makes a bootable image, which is even better. You not only can restore the drive, but if that second, if the first drive dies, you can actually just boot to a second drive and it's the same and keeps it up to date. So there are lots of ways to do this. Is there a reason you want to leave Acronis?
No, not really. Unfortunately, I've never had to use it. I've never had that kind of a failure. But the reason that I stayed with Acronis...
That's, by the way, right. Backup, you hope you never use it.
Yeah.
Backup's like having an escape chute on your airplane.
Yeah.
You don't want to use it,
yeah,
but you better darn well have it.
Well, Leo, the reason that I was drawn to it is one of the things that they argue, and I don't know if it's the case, but one of the things that they argue about their system is if a computer does fail, then that image could be put onto another computer.
That's not always true, because remember, Windows is highly customized with drivers for that specific hardware. Furthermore, Microsoft, in their paranoia, they are the most paranoid company in the world, has all of this they literally have 3 different anti-piracy solutions on Windows to prevent you from taking Windows and putting it on a different computer. So once you've activated on one computer, it won't work on a different computer. They'll say, wait a minute, you're pirating our software. So images are not designed to work on different hardware. They're designed to be, if a hard drive fails, on the same computer. A backup is a better solution if you're changing computers. A backup is just back up the data because you're going to put it on a new computer. The data doesn't care what computer it's on. But I do both, images and backups. You should have both. And if you're a business, it's important. Now, by the way, Carbonite, and you should investigate, because Carbonite does offer all of these things. Carbonite does have an imaging capability. You can even get a Carbonite appliance that does local backups, imaging, and off-site backup. So that's what businesses are looking for, is some turnkey solution that does that really guarantees they can get up and running fast. So Carbonite does have a solution for you if you want to look into that. But you're on the right track. I mean, it's good to have a drive image, whatever software you use. It's hard to test a drive image. That's the only negative on that. Drive image will not move to another computer. That's what a backup's for. And it's good to have a backup too, because you don't want to be imaging every night. You image whenever you kind of make a major change to your hard drive. That eliminates reinstalling software and all of that. In fact, what I do is when I install Windows the first time I do an image, that's a clean install. So now I have a new Windows installer disk that's faster than the original and it has all the right drivers. Then I install the software I'm going to use and make a second image. That's kind of a, all the patches, all the appliances, all the stuff I'm going to put on there. And then I do a second image. And then maybe once in a while, maybe every quarter, you make a new image that has all the data and stuff. The data isn't really what an image is for. An image is really about reinstalling Windows promptly, quickly, in minutes. Max, West LA, where'd you get 23,000 emails, Max?
Well, it's my wife's computer, and she had this email account and getting all kinds of spam and not spam, but she likes to surf the web, and she's applies to all these catalogs. Anyway, so she got another email which has been kept in check, but in the meantime, she just keeps getting email after email after email, and I think it's not a good thing. And we just want to get rid of we'd like to get rid of the 23,000 emails. Or hang on. Entire account.
Yeah, we could do this. Hang on, I'll help you do it when we come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. You want to know how many emails I got? Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo. Last segment of the day, the Dig Is Whiz, Dick DeBartolo coming up in a moment, but I want to help get rid of Max's 23,000 emails. First, tell me what operating system, Max.
It's a MacBook. I guess it's OS X.
I don't care. And you're using Apple's mail program?
No, this is an old account from sbcglobal.net.
So it's a web account?
Yeah, it's a free account.
I think they use Yahoo Mail?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I mean, yeah, I bet you of those 23,000 emails, most of them are spam, because Yahoo Mail is really a haven for spam.
But she's also got a lot of personal stuff. We just and then if I
but you still have SBC Global as your internet service provider.
No, our internet service provider is Time Warner.
So that account doesn't even operate anymore.
I guess not, but
Yes, it does.
It does. Okay, I guess because you have a Yahoo Mail account, they just keep it going.
Yeah.
You can turn it off. Just cancel your Yahoo Mail account.
But how do I do that?
That's a good question. Let me hang on, okay? Because we're going to do GizWiz. I will, before the end of the show, I'll figure that out. I'm fairly certain there's a way to get rid of your Yahoo Mail account. Now, I take it that the key is to get rid of Yahoo Mail without getting rid of Yahoo, because you don't want to get rid of your Yahoo account. You just don't want this email account anymore.
That way I can X out all of the trash and everything and be free.
Yeah. Well, Yahoo, we'll put this in the show notes, has a tech note called, well, see, it's closing your Yahoo account. We don't want to terminate our Yahoo account. We just want to terminate that email address, right?
Exactly. If possible.
I'm sure we will find a solution for you. I'm just looking at the Yahoo help pages here and things like this, and I'm pretty convinced that that's fairly straightforward. You can also just never go to that page again, and you won't see it. I understand you want to clean up after yourself, but the internet's full of trash. It's not like Woodstock where, you know, bring your trash out. But you don't have to take your trash out with you. Right, Dick? The internet's full. That is correct. Yes. We give you permission just to leave it lying around. Eventually, Yahoo will delete it. Right? I think Yahoo deletes old email accounts so somebody else can use it. You can also select all and press the delete key, but that's 23,000 messages. Might take a while. I'm not sure why. I just don't ever open that page again. But there should be a way to actually kill a Yahoo email account. We'll find that. Dick DeBartolo is here, and we'll do this, and then I'll come back and figure out what to do with your email. He is Mad Magazine's maddest writer. We call him the GizWiz. He's a nice guy. You should all give him your attention. I see. Well, you know, I feel like it's an assembly. I'm the principal announcing a speaker, a guest speaker. Please, class, pay attention to Dick. Go ahead, Dick.
All right. Well, my idea is to close the web for 1 hour a month, and during that 1 hour, everybody gets rid of their dead links.
I saw that. I think that's brilliant. This was on your Facebook. Couldn't be better timing.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just have an Internet Cleanup Day.
Exactly.
Every month.
Well, so far I have 9 billion people who can do it Monday at 9 a.m., but I have, you know, getting everybody on the same page, kind of tricky. Anyway. So I have a new gadget, Leo, I think you'll be interested in. We haven't talked about this company in several years, and it's a brand new coffee maker from Capresso. And I think you had a Capresso
I did,
maker.
and I love Capresso stuff.
Yeah, because, you know, they use burr grinders. Yeah, exactly.
We're not talking a pod thing. This is they make real coffee, and but it's automatic, which is nice.
It's automatic, and it's brand new, and there's a picture of it on the Tech Guy page. It's only available in a couple of stores now because it just came out. A lot of stainless steel, still burr grinder, but now you can remove the top burr if something gets stuck in there. Does automatic cleaning between grinding, and it has a button called Oily. And I thought that was like if you make coffee oily. I guess I said to Dennis, I guess maybe if you get up at 5 a.m. you hit the oily
from Brooklyn,
button.
I got up oily. Yeah.
But I said, you know, there's no late button, so let's look in the book here.
What does it do?
So it turns out that oily beans need to be ground a bit longer. So if you're using oily beans, you hit the oily button. And charcoal filter, and it's, I believe, their biggest coffee maker now. It makes 12 cups, and obviously automatic go off in the morning and shuts off automatically after 2 hours if you forget it